Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about episode 4 of HBO's Task, entitled All Roads. And I kind of feel the same way about this episode that I felt about the last one. Again, another very good episode of television that I thoroughly enjoyed. But I will say that the show does seem to have kind of like taken its foot off the gas. And I say that knowing that this isn't the most propulsive show. It's not like it's John Wick on TV, but this episode and the last one very much felt like middle of the season type episodes that kind of serve as more of a bridge between the setup and the climax. And that's not to say that nothing of note happened in this episode, far from it. But well, let me just ask you this. Does this show feel like it has 3 more episodes of story left? Like, if I had to be critical of one thing, I'm concerned about whether or not this show is going to start to drag a little bit. Having said that, this is definitely my favorite show on TV right now, and I think it's absolutely outstanding. So with that in mind, let's dive into talking about this one. And we open with Tom laying out the big plan for the meetup with Cliff. They set this up last episode using Ray's phone, and they're preparing for Sam to possibly be there as well, since it is currently unknown whether or not he is alive. Meanwhile, Robbie fills Cliff in on their next move, which is going to be a guy named Bartos who can smuggle them into Canada. And on the Dark Heart side, Perry has successfully mated with the bartender D. Although I wrote that like he was like a zoo habitat or some shit. But he's now flipping through a photo album from the Reading event, searching for the person whose gun was used in Sam's parents' murder. And then while he's there, Vincent, who is, I'm guessing he's like Perry's boss, or at the very least a peer, he shows up with some pretty big news that Jason has been voted out. And in this world, that sounds a lot like a death sentence to me. Like, I like, is that what we were meant to take away from that? Like, that didn't sound like, you don't need to say that if somebody's just getting demoted. Like, he's like, yo, after I know how you feel about him, maybe you don't want to be there for this. I feel like you don't say that if it's just a demotion, but I don't know. Killing him seems extreme for not wanting him to be the head of the club no more, but kind of sounds like that's the direction it's going. I guess we'll see soon. Next, we get what was, for me, one of the standout moments of the episode when Emily talks with her therapist. And, you know, I've been saying all season that the complex family dynamic with Tom is one of my favorite things about this season. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the 2 episodes I've liked the least have also spent the least amount of time on that subplot. Yeah, I love this scene because it highlights an aspect of being a foster child that people rarely think about. And that dynamic is even more complicated given what Ethan did. But she opens up to the therapist about being adopted by Tom and his wife and how she's always expected to feel grateful for something that she never asked for. Like, she's not allowed to experience any kind of negative feelings because she always has to be grateful. She can't be upset. She can't complain. All she can be is grateful for this life that Tom and his wife blessed her with that she didn't ask for. And this makes a complicated situation even more complicated when she wants to defend Ethan, but doesn't want to excuse his actions in front of her sister and father. And you can tell all season that she's wanted to be, I think she's wanted to lean a little bit more fully into, prison won't help him. You know, he needs some mental help. I think she's wanted to lean more into that, but has been reticent because of what Ethan did, who he impacted, and because of how grateful she should be. Never mind that her adoptive sister wants to throw her mentally ill brother in prison. Never mind that she doesn't even acknowledge that they have the same mother. And never mind that she, now being Emily, overhears her father rejecting Ethan as well. But yet and still, she has to continue to be grateful. And I just love how this subplot really uses the death of Emily's mother to shine a light on how foster children can feel in some of these complicated circumstances, which, I mean, when you're a foster child, your circumstances are probably complicated regardless. And generally, that conversation, the conversation about adopting children like that, it just generally revolves around how great the adults are for adopting, which is, of course, true. But like, you don't often see this viewpoint from the kid. And the fact that this show has used this terrible murder as a way to kind of like give that voice a megaphone, I like that. Moving on, Tom confides in Kathleen about his mole suspicion, and she downplays it. She's like, you know what? I don't think it's that big of a deal. We don't need to change shit up. Let's just go along with the plan as we planned it. And she downplays it because she is the mole. Like, it is funny because they revealed it right then. But as soon as that scene was about to wrap up, I turned to my wife. I was like, she don't care because she is the mole. And then she picks up the phone. It's like, we have a problem. But I think that's a pretty interesting reveal. I'm curious how someone in her position got aligned with the Dark Hearts, and also if her choosing to put Tom in charge of this case was because she didn't think he could handle it. Like, she thought he was too busy still dealing with Ethan and dealing with the stuff with his wife. And she was like, this is a person who we don't have to worry about. I mean, one of them said that earlier on in the season. They're like, I think it was Jason, like, who's in charge of this task force? Oh, it's this guy, Tom, I forget his last name. Tom, what's his face? And he's like, oh, but we don't have to worry about him. Makes it sound like now that we know that Kathleen was the mole, that Kathleen probably told him, like, I put a guy, Tom, in charge. Brandis, I put this Tom Brandis guy in charge. Don't worry about him. He ain't gonna do shit. I'm almost certain that's what happened now. So Perry checks in with Shane. That's the guy that the bartender D threw under the bus last week and who's been acting strangely ever since all of this shit went down. And Shane tells Perry that a lot of the club members, him included, are not happy regarding how Billy's murder went down. And Perry's like, what do you mean how it went down? He was stealing. And I was a little bit too ghetto there. Stealing. He was stealing. He was stealing. That's when we learned that Perry never knew the real reason that Billy was killed. He was told it was because Billy was stealing. But Shay tells him how it's really because of Aaron. And the reason he's been acting funny is that it didn't sit well with him, didn't sit well with the other club members, and he feels like the club has been cursed ever since this happened with Billy. Perry's reaction here in this scene shows how deep this betrayal cuts. He's fucking pissed. And this is kind of a big reveal for this episode because I don't know about you guys, but I assumed everyone knew that Aaron was the reason Billy was killed and that they were like collectively cool with it and like, this is what has to happen. I didn't know that Jason lied to everybody and that this was a big secret. So I think that's kind of a big reveal coming out of this episode. Next, there's another great scene where we flash back to Robbie and his family at the quarry when Billy was still alive. Robbie shares with Billy how his wife is feeling smothered, and Billy essentially recommends that Robbie let her go. Aaron arrives as well in this scene, and we hear some serious concern from Robbie about Billy continuing to see Aaron, and Billy acknowledging that this is a problem. And then we also see that same concern on Maeve's face. She's in the water watching all of this at the time. It's a small scene, but it's a poignant beat that sharpens their history. And I think it shows the audience, an important keyword here, shows the audience just what kind of relationship Billy and Robbie had. Moving on, Perry confronts Jason, beating him with his fist wrapped in chain link. Jackson, why do I keep calling him Jack? I know I keep, because I'm still stuck on Jax from fucking Sons of Anarchy, and I keep going to call him Jack, and then it's spelled Jason, it's spelled with a Y. Like, I don't know. I don't know why I keep calling him Jackson. But Perry confronts Jason, like I said, beating him with the chain link wrapped fist. And Jason tells him that Kathleen helped them out and that they now have the meat location. He doesn't say the meat location. But he doesn't say Kathleen specifically. He says the informant or something like that. He also admits that Aaron was going to leave him, which I think is an interesting layer again. And to be clear, I don't think the show is going to dive too deeply into Jason's past, but I am grateful that everyone's actions, even on this show, the bad guy being Jason, are motivated by some sort of pain or trauma. So when Robbie, Cliff, and Sam head out to meet Bartosz, things spiral out of control. Robbie goes in to meet with Bartosz. Cliff falls asleep in the car, and Sam fucks off. A bystander finds him and learns that he's with someone named Robbie, which, if that guy gets interviewed by Tom next week and remembers that kid said the name Robbie, that's going to be enough for Tom to connect Robbie to Cliff, because we know that he knows Cliff's been doing this with somebody from his job. He gets that name Robbie. He's going to connect the shit to Billy and Maeve, and yep, he's going to get his motive, and that's going to be it for Robbie. But the bystander, he decides he wants to play hero, and he wants to take a picture of Robbie on his phone, and that earns him a first grade ass whooping. The picture is later brought to Tom when the guy reports the assault, and Robbie is blocking his own face in the picture, but Sam is visible in the pic, which confirms for the FBI that he is in fact alive. At home, Robbie tells Maeve about the Canada plan, and she shits on it completely, rightfully so. She and the kids aren't going, and she refuses to let Robbie ruin their lives because he has ruined his. And she tells him plainly, if you don't turn Sam in tomorrow, I will. Perry then pays a visit to Aaron, and learning about what actually happened with Billy and why has led Perry to make all the right conclusions for all the right reasons about what happened with Aaron. He confronts her about Billy as she admits that she was with him while also calling out Jason's own infidelity. But that's not what Perry really wanted to know. He wants to know if she had a hand in those robberies / murders. And she denies it. But I mean, Perry's put the puzzle together in its entirety. Like, he understands her motivations. He understands the position she was in. He even offers to help her leave Jason. The only thing he doesn't have at this time is any kind of solid form of proof. But by the end of the episode, he'll mostly have that too. Probably going to be a really bad episode 5 for Aaron. Then comes another standout scene. Again, these quiet moments. Robbie dressed up to practice for the daddy-daughter dance with Harper, the dance that I said that he was never going to make it to. And to the show's credit, even though they don't end up going to the dance, they subverted my expectation of it being due to Robbie being just an irresponsible guy, and she never bought the tickets. But, it's not lost on me that the best scenes on this show are the emotional beats and not the action sequences, but Harper quickly sours when Robbie mentions her mom being a great dancer, and then that's when she confesses what I just said about not buying the tickets to the dance because she didn't think that he wanted to go, and so she put the money back in his wallet. And like, to me, that was such a subtle but brutal scene, like a daughter that's so doubtful of her father that she assumes he's going to disappoint her. Like, their dance, they decide to have it there, and it just turned into a long hug with Maeve watching. And it's a short, quiet scene, but it was profoundly sad to me as a father of 3 daughters. Like, it would destroy me to know that one of them felt like they couldn't rely on me, or that I didn't care about the stuff that was important to them, that I was just some fucking loser who they couldn't depend on, and they just got to run their own fucking lives. You see how she's constantly asked Maeve, like, hey, Maeve, don't leave, because she knows that he can't support and take care of her. We know that Robbie wants to. We know how important that is to him, but he's incapable at the moment. And like, as an adult, that's got to be gut-wrenching to know that your child looks at you that way. So now it's time for the sting operation on Cliff. Grasso's the point man while the others watch. Side note, we also learned that Aaliyah beat one of the other guys twice in a marksmanship competition. That's gotta come back around, right? Because that's such a random thing to mention in that moment. Like, it's not random in the sense of like, okay, they got guns ready. Oh, yeah, not random in that sense, but like, that's very specific. Like, hey, she won a marksmanship competition. Like, mentioning that at that time, that's gotta come back around. So first off, there's no Sam. They don't bring him along, just Cliff and Robbie. Cliff's in a separate car, and he only has a sample of the drugs for the potential buyer to test. Everything goes well. Robbie will roll up with the rest of the drugs. Boom, they hit up Bartosz and head to Canada. Cliff appears to be arriving at the meetup location, but when the FBI takes the car that arrives, it turns out it's just a couple looking for their lost dog. Cliff's at an entirely different location than the one that Tom texted him from Ray's phone. When Cliff texts Ray that he has arrived, just as here, the text goes to Jason. And I think we are to now understand in this moment that Kathleen not only would have given Jason a heads up, but she also would have given him Ray's phone so that they could set a new location and that Jason could pretend to be Ray and set up Cliff. So now the task force is on a wild goose chase, which clearly motivates Tom even further to figure out which member of his team is the mole. And Jason and Perry are being served up one of the guys who has been robbing them. So back to that on the road, Perry and Jason ram Cliff's car off the road. Well, initially they just ram him from behind, pause. And Cliff is on the phone with Robbie at the time, and he tells him to leave, just bail out, get out of here. He smashes his phone on the dashboard, and then he gets rammed off of the cliff. Again, weird diversion from that moment. I kind of feel like you want to stay in that moment, but we leave that moment to watch Lizzie and Grasso go out for drinks, and they dance, they nearly fuck, but Grasso stops himself because he's bothered at the idea of having sex with Lizzie in the same bed that she slept with her ex in. I want to use my phrase for my Alien Earth finale video. If you watched it, you know what phrase I'm using, but like, I understand the point of this scene. I'm just not into it. Like, I will admit that Lizzie and Grasso as a pair are starting to grow on me, but considering the general vibe of this show and its subject matter, I still really wonder why they felt the need to have a romantic relationship piece. It feels out of place to me. Later, Emily comes home drunk. She went partying with coworkers. She pukes up some cherry water ice and tells Tom that she's sorry for being adopted and ruining his life. And Sarah overhears this, and this that family tension is just at a boiling point heading into this sentencing. But I want to talk about something here. Tom's family dynamic got very little attention again this week, and I think the show would benefit from giving it a little bit more time. Like right now, when you give it so little time, it makes it feel like a diversion or a detour from the main story of Robbie and Cliff evading capture. And I think those two stories should be given equal time because they're parallels to my mind. Like, just like I said in my video for episode 1, Tom and Robbie are two guys who have experienced a great deal of pain and or trauma within their families, and they took two very separate paths as a response to that. But I don't think either one of those paths is any more interesting or valuable than the other. But the show is kind of treating Robbie's path as if it is. But like Tom's shit, like the becoming a priest and then getting out of being a priest and getting into alcohol, and now he's got to deal with his adopted son having killed his wife, and now his biological daughter and adoptive daughter, and like that is way more interesting to me than Robbie trying to evade getting caught. But I feel like both things should be given because Robbie, I'm minimalizing here. This Robbie story isn't just him trying to evade being caught. It's what's going on with Maeve. It's about him as a father and as a parent. And just my point is that I feel like those two things should be given equal time, and I feel like way more time is being given to Robbie. And I feel like the show is suffering a bit because of that. I don't want to say suffering because it's still great, but like I just feel like it could be perfect if you just gave a little bit more time to the Ethan and Emily stuff. Like Maeve was even barely in this episode, so like it's important, I think, to recognize where your strengths are, but then at the same time, this is so subjective. Like they might feel like they're recognizing where their strengths are, and I just don't agree. So, at the end of the day, though, this show is great. I love my only criticism that I'm stating right now is that it's so good that I wish they gave this other good part of it more time. Like that's the harshest thing I can say about this show. So that's pretty good. But with 3 episodes left and the task force seemingly closing in on Robbie, I really hope we can shift back towards Tom's personal life a little bit. Because I mean, Robbie don't see 3 episodes away from getting caught. He sees about 15 minutes into the first episode from getting caught. But back with the Dark Hearts, Shane returns with only 1 brick of the drugs and Cliff's gun. Perry doesn't recognize it just yet. But meanwhile, Cliff's being tortured. Jason wants to know who's tipping off the task force, and Cliff spits blood at his face. And Jason responds by wrapping Cliff's head in plastic wrap, suffocating him to death. And just like that, Robbie's decision-making has now cost him his best and most loyal friend. And now having Cliff's gun, Perry returns to the photo album from Reading to see if he can find that gun on one of the members in the pictures. Intercut with these scenes of Perry looking through this photo album are the aforementioned scenes of Tom learning that Sam is alive via the photo from that bystander. And then Perry makes the discovery that is going to help him close in on Robbie as well. He matches the gun to a photo of Billy and Maeve, which puts him one step closer to her door. So again, another excellent episode. Once again, the show thrives in the human beats to me. Emily in therapy voicing the weight of this, I don't want to say forced gratitude, but this gratitude that feels required. Robbie and Harper's heartbreaking non-dance. Those quieter scenes carry the emotional heft that keeps this show grounded. The reveal of Kathleen as the mole is strong. And even better, Tom will likely keep suspecting his own team. That should make for some pretty good drama. Meanwhile, both Perry and Tom are closer than ever to catching Robbie, but yet there's still 3 episodes left. Again, that's a lot. I don't feel like we got 3 episodes, but maybe this story's going in a direction that I'm not foreseeing. So again, I'm a bit concerned with whether or not this season is going to feel protracted, but we'll see. Each episode advances the story in meaningful ways while leaving us hungry for what's next, and episode 4 keeps that streak alive. So I'm still very much happy with this show. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Like the channel, subscribe, share to your social media, join the Discord, join the conversation, and until next week, peace.